Hey, how's it going, everybody? RC Maxfield here for the Back to 12 podcast, coming at you a little earlier than normal. It's noon on a Monday. You must be thinking to yourself, RC, get a job. I'm off today. I promise you that. But I figured now was a good time with the national championship game tonight between Ohio State and Notre Dame to do a live during the day because, well, there is a lot to discuss about Texas Tech men's basketball right now as they are in the midst of a critical stretch, in my opinion, in their schedule, and one that really can lay a foundation for a little bit of leeway going into the much more difficult aspect of the Big 12 schedule. We'll discuss that. We'll also look at the Cincinnati matchup as the Red Raiders are set to go up to Ohio and face off against the Bearcats team that has gotten back on track recently, but definitely hasn't lived up to the preseason expectations. We'll discuss that, as well as where Texas Tech currently ranks almost to February. We're not too far away from this, right? In terms of that's when you start really starting to pay attention to a lot of these metrics. We'll look at KenPom. We'll look at the net rankings. We'll look at T ranks. We'll look at the BPI, as well as the latest Big 12 standings as well. Appreciate y'all spending some of your Monday afternoon with me. If you haven't already, be sure to like the video. And as always, let me know where you're watching from. And little twist, who you got winning tonight in the national championship game? I know the Red Raiders aren't in it. Hopefully we're talking something in terms of Texas Tech and the college football playoff next year. There's a ton of expectations. But let me know who y'all have in tonight's national championship between the Buckeyes of Ohio State and the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame. Let me know. All right, let's jump into this because I've talked about this a little bit on Twitter. I've also talked about it a little bit in a video here on the channel, but I kind of want to go more in depth on why Texas Tech is in the midst of a critical 5-game stretch for them on the hardwood, okay? The two prior games, Kansas State, Arizona, you get W's. It wasn't pretty in Manhattan, and then I understand that they pulled away late with a 13-0 lead, but Texas Tech always felt like they were kind of in control against Arizona. It was always Arizona trying to get back into the game, and they successfully did tie it up in the second half. Oh, by the way, Texas Tech held the Wildcats, a not good shooting team, but to only one made three-pointer in the second half, 3 in the entire game, and that three-pointer came at the 19:30 mark. The Red Raider defense was phenomenal, and maybe they found something with Fetty and JT. But on the scheduling front, this 5-game stretch includes, obviously, that win at Kansas State. I just mentioned it. Wasn't pretty, but you got it. You beat Arizona. I think you dominated the Wildcats. You controlled that game throughout. And now you look ahead. You play at Cincinnati on Tuesday. I mean, I would suspect that's basically going to be a coin flip game. Maybe it's a little closer, but it feels like it's probably going to be close to a coin flip. But then you play at home against Oklahoma State, one of the lower teams in the Big 12. And then maybe the most surprising win of the entire weekend in the Big 12 came on Sunday when TCU, a team that I personally thought was awful, to just be quite honest with you, beat Baylor in Waco. That was something I did not have on my bingo card, but that is what happened. The Red Raiders currently sit going into the Cincinnati game in fourth, should say tied for fourth in the Big 12 at 4-2. We discussed it a little bit. This 5-game stretch just went through, obviously, the games you played and the 3 games ahead of you, right? In that sense, if you can go 4-1 or even better yet, 5-0, you set yourself up for immense success going into February in a 3-game stretch where you start the month of February on February 1st down in H-Town against the team in Houston that, well, they almost lost in Orlando to a UCF team that beat you earlier at home if you're the Red Raiders in conference play. Then you go back home after playing at Houston and play the aforementioned Baylor team that just lost to TCU this past weekend. And then you go out to Arizona, right? A team that, well, we know Arizona historically is a tough place to play. Texas Tech really hadn't played there much in their history, but they're probably looking for a little bit of revenge after what you did to them out in the 806 this past weekend. So again, if you can go into February 6-3, or even better yet, 7-2, and I think if you're 7-2, you're probably in the number 1 range in the Big 12, or you're very close to it, probably second at worst at that point, because I truly believe winning this conference, you're going to have the leeway to lose about maybe 5-6 games. That's how good this conference is. I actually heard somebody in the national media say that the Big Ten is a better conference than the Big 12 this year. Like, listen, I'll give it to the SEC this year. They're really good on the hardwood, right? And the funny thing is, SEC basketball this year is what SEC football fans think the SEC is in football. I thought that was a perfect analogy. But Big 12 is the second best conference in America, period, right? And if you're up there talking about, the upper 4 or upper 5 of the conference, right, you're going to be a top 5 seed. And the best way to do that is to set yourself up for success here. And again, I haven't wavered, at least call me out if you think I have in the comments. I've been skeptical on some of the aspects of this team throughout the whole entire portal process and even the start of the season. But I've stood strong, in my opinion, in the sense that I think Texas Tech is a second weekend caliber team. And what they did against Arizona just makes me even more confident in that. And obviously the result, winning by 16 points, like, yeah, that's awesome, right? Like, good stuff, Tech. But how they got there was the way that really, really was encouraging to me, because I know what some people are going to say. Arizona's not a good shooting team, and you're 100% right. But Arizona is a good offensive team, right? They're really good at getting downhill. They're really good at using their bigs. And Texas Tech defensively, I thought absolutely dominated them. They created havoc on the defensive end, did the Red Raiders. And the way that they did it was a way that wasn't on my bingo card. Just like Baylor losing to TCU, they played Fetty and JT together, and that was their best lineup. Now, obviously, the most size out there in the front court, right, that Texas Tech can offer. But really, those guys did a tremendous job. Specifically, JT, you could tell he was back 100% healthy. He was battling the flu the week prior. You could tell against Iowa State he wasn't himself. He was battling that ankle injury. And also, we know the flu now. He was battling the flu predominantly against Kansas State, where he was just bad, but pretty damn good reason. I don't know about you, but I'm probably not playing basketball well either if I have the flu. But he looked 100% dominated Arizona, a team that historically has really good bigs. That team has really good bigs, and he went for 20 and 16. He was easily the best player on that floor, and that includes a guy in Caleb Love that was getting preseason All-American type hype, okay? So you have them, and then you go out and you put Fetty two-time out there. We'll call him two-time on this one. Like, I didn't know what to expect from Fetty. I'll be honest with you. I thought he would be solid. He has been one of the better bigs in all of the conference, okay? And that's not me just trying to hype him up, and there's still room for him to fall back to where maybe he, originally thought, I think, or where we originally thought he would be. But he's been sensational for Texas Tech as the lead 5 there in the front court. But you have those two guys out there, and it really creates havoc for teams, because the thing with Texas Tech defensively, if we're just being honest about it, they're not very good on the perimeter, okay? They just don't have a lot of length, right? Like, just reality of it, right? The longest guy you have that is a solid defender on the perimeter is Kevin Overton. And, is he the greatest defender in the world? No. Is he a good defender? That's probably a little strong. He's probably closer to average than good, but he's there, right? Like, Elijah Hawkins is pesky, but he's small, right? Christian Anderson is a freshman. The effort is 100% there, but you can tell, hey, sometimes he's a freshman and he makes mistakes defensively and also on the offensive end. But a lot of that can be hidden if you have Fetty and JT on the floor because of the size and the athleticism that they present in the front court, okay? Fetty is a legit 6'11", but he's really good in terms of his feet moving for his size. JT, he's listed at 6'9". He's probably closer to 6'7", but his second bounce and his footwork for his size is really at the peak of college basketball, okay? I'm very curious to see how much more a lineup consisting of those two guys in the front court and whatever trio of guards Texas Tech wants to throw out there is played. Because I always thought for this roster and how it was constructed that your best team, or your best lineup, I should say, would be JT at the 5, D5 at the 4, Chance at the 3. Then you'd have Christian Anderson, Kevin Overton at the 2, with Elijah at the 1. That's what I always thought. But you look at what they had done against Arizona, and maybe they found just another lineup that they can go to and maybe not be, the best lineup or the most used lineup, I should say, at all times. But now Grant McCaslin, with an already talented roster, right, and already a team that was looking better defensively over the past 2 games, now you have an extra lineup at your disposal where it's like, okay, we're not guarding on the perimeter too well right now. They're getting to the hoop quite often. All right, let's throw that JT and Fetty lineup out there. Have D5 out there for a physicality perspective, KO, and then Christian Anderson or whoever you want, right, as the trio of guards. I thought that that was one of the biggest takeaways for Texas Tech from that Arizona game. And a reason why, again, health is going to be a big aspect of it, but this Texas Tech team is really freaking good. And they have every opportunity in the world to be a second weekend team out, well, in the NCAA tournament. I don't know where they're playing the second weekend this year. I probably should have looked that up. That's on me. But let me know in the comments. Again, I have it right there. You tell me Texas Tech will finish blank in the Big 12 this year. Will they finish in the top 5? Will they finish in the top 2, top 3? Let me know. Simple number. And while you're at it, be sure to like the video. Hit that subscribe button. Almost to 11,500 subscribers. Largest Texas Tech YouTube channel. 100% free. We're going live on random Mondays. Nobody else is doing that. If you want to be a part of the most interactive Texas Tech community on YouTube and really maybe the internet, I don't know. I don't know if that can be proven either way, but hey, we'll say it. Hop on board, like the video, and hit that subscribe button. All right. Quick drink and a couple shout-outs. We got Gilly going with the Ohio State. We got diehard Texas Tech asking, RC, what is the max potential for this team since we got our defense in check? I think it's second weekend, and once you get to the second weekend, diehard Texas Tech, it really is just a couple of bounces from there, right? Like, get to the second weekend, and you're a bounce or two away from going to the Elite Eight. Get a bounce or two here or there, and you're a bounce away, and you're going to the Final Four, right? I'm not saying Texas Tech is a Final Four team. Don't hear what I'm not saying. But once you get to the second weekend, 1 or 2 bounces go your way, and you're looking at a potential opportunity to play in the Final Four. All right. Appreciate the question, by the way. David says, Tech has looked good, but haven't come close to peaking. If they can stop missing so many short shots and improve the three-point shooting, they will blow teams out. The crazy part is they're already one of the best three-point shooting teams in the country. It's actually kind of crazy when you look at it in terms of just how good they are from a statistical standpoint in shooting the three. They shoot 38.9%. Let's just round up and say 39% from three, okay? I'm going to look this up right now. That's why I am kind of looking down at the screen. Let's see here. We'll go to total offense, and we'll look at three-point shooting teams, okay? I don't think they're going to be one or anything, but Texas Tech, as it stands right now, is a top 16 shooting team in the country. When it comes to high major programs, however, that's where things change. Whatever your opinion is on Memphis, I guess we can include them. I include the Big East as a high major in basketball terms. You have Houston as the best in the Power Five. Then you've got Villanova, Iowa, Memphis, and Texas Tech. So Texas Tech, right now as it stands, is the 5th best shooting team in the Power Five. Pretty damn good. And they're only going to get better, right? Because, David, you're right. They shot 16% from three against UCF. And they didn't shoot too well at Kansas State either. So they're only going to get better for sure. Isaac says, if NC State made it to the Final Four, then we sure as hell can with this shooting team. Yeah, absolutely. Again, it's a bounce here or there. I think from a potential standpoint, my expectation, and maybe I'm flawed in this, I think Texas Tech is a second weekend team. Once you get to the second weekend, a bounce here or there, and you're playing down in San Antonio, right? And that's where the Final Four is this year. Is that my expectation for Texas Tech to make the Final Four? No. My expectation is they are in the round of 32, right? And then they absolutely have a great chance to make the second weekend, i.e. the Sweet 16. They're talented enough to do it. Now, things have to go your way. We know that sometimes, unfortunately, you get to play Cinderella, wink, wink, last year. That sucks because if you think about it last year, right, I think some people forget this, and maybe it's a good thing to forget. Do you remember who NC State played in the second round of the NCAA tournament? I'll give you a second. Okay, technically I gave you 2. It was Oakland. If Texas Tech plays Oakland, Texas Tech probably beats Oakland, and they're a Sweet 16 team. Do they make the Final Four like NC State? I don't know. That team had flaws. Every team does. But you like your chances if you beat NC State. And I think that this team is far more talented than last year's. I think it has a lot more of what Grant McCasland wants in terms of his team. I think they're becoming a lot more physical. And that's something that Grant McCasland has preached and wanted more of. And I think that moving forward, you will see Texas Tech be more physical. But it starts on the defensive end. And I think you found a lineup with JT and Fetty both on the floor at the same time that allows you to hide a lot of those flaws you have on the perimeter defensively while also not completely negating the offensive side of the floor. You can still be pick and roll heavy, and you can still have multiple shooters out there. Again, 39.5 or 39% from three as a team. It's pretty damn good in my opinion. David says they'll finish in fourth. Grant, I'll answer that Amari Evans question here at the end. But first, I kind of want to discuss this Cincinnati game. Okay. Texas Tech heads up to Cincinnati to play a Bearcats team that really hasn't lived up to expectations in the preseason. They were a top 25 team, were the Bearcats, to enter the year. They lost their first 4 Big 12 conference games before beating Colorado and Arizona State the past 2. But don't get it twisted. Wes Miller's team is very, very good and will present a lot of problems for Texas Tech. Now, Texas Tech is looking like they are getting back on track, specifically on the defensive end after their best defensive performance against Arizona. We talked about that in the sense of 54 points. That'll play from a defensive perspective. And you held the Arizona Wildcats to 3 of 16 shooting from 3, 16% overall. Not a good shooting team with the Wildcats, but hey, you were the reason why they didn't shoot well in that game if you're Texas Tech. Now, Texas Tech is in the midst of a stretch that they have to get to at least 4 wins in now. They have to get at least 4 because February is so difficult. But you look at what the Bearcats have done. Again, 2-4 in Big 12 play, 2-5 overall so far. Their losses in the Big 12 are at Kansas State, not ideal. Then versus Arizona, okay, you lose at home against Arizona. Texas Tech beat Arizona at home, at Baylor, and then versus Kansas. Now, the Kansas game is interesting because the Bearcats only scored 40 points. Kansas won that basketball game scoring 54 points. 54. Wild type stuff. Again, as I mentioned, they have won their past 2 conference games against Colorado and Arizona State. Colorado, probably closer to a bottom feeder in the Big 12, if we're being honest. And Arizona State is one of those teams where I don't think anybody's going to enjoy playing them, but they may not be the most talented team in the Big 12, but they're pesky, if that makes sense. So that's a solid win right there. Now, overall, the Bearcats are led by Lucas, 12.4 points per game. They also have another score that's at 12.4 points per game, but he doesn't qualify in terms of the metrics, in terms of being a leader since he hadn't played enough games. Either way, Simus is their best shooter by far. Really the only guy shooting over 35% from 3 that has qualified minutes for the Bearcats. Now, there will be a familiar face for Texas Tech fans in this game due to Dylan Mitchell transferring from UT up to Cincinnati. He's the Bearcats' leading rebounder at 6.8 rebounds per game and is also a really good defender, 1 through 4. It would not surprise me at all if you see Mitchell on JT Toppin or you see him on D5. He is their best defender. He is going to guard whoever is the hottest player for Texas Tech at any given time, which is, potentially, Chance could be, the freshman. CA, Christian Anderson, could be D5, JT Toppin. He's versatile, and he's a guy to watch. Offensively, he's not going to do anything too crazy for you, but he's a guy that definitely have to look around for his athleticism, and he's not afraid to go up and get physical in terms of an O board to keep a possession alive for the Bearcats as well. I believe his last name is Bandigo. I believe that's how you say it. Aziz Bandigo. He's the big. He is their pick and roll guy. He's 7 foot. He honestly kind of reminds me of a little bit bigger Fetty. Just maybe not as athletic. He's still athletic for a 7-footer, but maybe just not as athletic as Fetty when it comes down to it in terms of agility, being able to go out on the perimeter and actually guard a little bit. he feels like he can be okay in a switch situation, but you feel better if Fetty is on the perimeter with his quick feet and how he can guard compared to, again, AB. I'm just going to call him AB. I'm going to butcher his last name. I apologize on that front. He won't shoot from the outside, but he has size to make a difference down low, and that's something to be interested in because maybe that's where you do see more of Fetty in this game because of a guy like AB down low. Now, when it comes to the Bearcats overall in this game, and again, this is a potentially big game for Texas Tech because you move to 5-2 if you win this game in the Big 12. You get another Big 12 road victory. Those are always looked highly upon. This would easily be another quad one win for the Red Raiders, right? But you go 5-2 in your first 7 games, right? One of those games you lost by 1 to a team that was the number 2 team in the country before they lost at West Virginia in the Iowa State Cyclones. Again, we're playing the what-if game there, but that's not a bad loss. In fact, it helped you move up in a lot of metrics, which we will look at here in a minute. But you look at that, you're 5-2, and then you have a chance to potentially go 7-2 if you win this Cincinnati game because you have 2 games at home against 2 of the teams in the lower half of the Big 12, let's say, in TCU and Oklahoma State. But overall, the Bearcats shoot 45.2% from the field, which is about middle of the pack in the Big 12, 10th overall. 32.8% from 3. That is 13th in the Big 12, i.e. 4th worst in the conference. They rebound at a pretty similar margin to Texas Tech. Texas Tech is actually 6th in the Big 12 at 38 rebounds per game, while the Bearcats are at 37.6. So really a wash if we're just being honest about it. And then the assist aspect of things, Texas Tech is in the top 3 in assists per game in the Big 12. While Cincinnati doesn't move the ball around too much, it's some ISO ball. They also run a lot in terms of screens. They try and get their shooter, Simus, involved a lot, but they are 11th in the Big 12 in terms of assists per game at 14.5. Now, the interesting part about Cincinnati, they don't turn the ball over. They are the second best team in the Big 12 when it comes to not turning the ball over, which is critical for them because I think Texas Tech is far more talented, but also Texas Tech does a really solid job. Are they the best team in the Big 12 at creating turnovers? No, but they're one of the better teams at creating turnovers. And if you can create some turnovers where maybe Cincinnati doesn't normally turn the ball over in certain situations, I think that just exponentially increases your chances of winning this basketball game if you're the Red Raiders. You come in, you're hot right now. You got a couple of road wins in the Big 12. You just beat an Arizona team that previously was unbeaten before they came out to the 806 and got drubbed by 16 points. How about Christian Anderson, by the way? That 360 lefty layup to basically ice it with a minute left. He's all Big 12, baby. I'm telling you, he's going to be an all Big 12 type guard. I don't know if he's going to be in Lubbock past 2 years because an NBA franchise is going to fall in love with him and probably multiple NBA franchises. That dude is a bona fide star as a true freshman. And JT Toppin too. We'll talk about him a lot more here on the channel, so another reason to subscribe. But I think Texas Tech wins this game on the defensive side of the basketball floor. And I think it really starts with, I think they truly found something with that Fetty and JT lineup. You throw D5 out there, you throw Chance. And the best part about this is the multitude of guards that you have allow you to really pick and choose who you want to be around JT and Fetty. If you need a little bit more physicality and size, okay, you go out there, you have Christian Anderson at the lead guard, and then you could throw D5 and Kevin Overton out there, or maybe D5 Chance and CA, or maybe it's D5 KO and Elijah Hawkins, or maybe it's D5 Chance and Elijah Hawkins, right? It allows you a multitude of different possibilities in terms of lineups construction. And the aspect of them playing long minutes together, I don't think that that's really realistic because they are your 2 prominent bigs. I don't know how great you feel about Ameli in terms of him playing a lot of minutes, but you put them out there for a 4 or 5 minute stretch, really make life difficult on the defensive end while also not deteriorating your offense in terms of really still having a lot of shooting out there. That's something I think that's going to be appealing to Grant McCaslin and crew when it comes to just throwing it out there for stretches. And the best part is if you need to rest JT, okay, you keep Fetty out there. You need to rest Fetty, you keep JT out there. You can always have one of them out there, or you can go super small. And I think it's an interesting lineup if you want to go D5, Kevin Overton, Kerwin, CA, Elijah. You know, you could have Chance out there as well. You have multiple opportunities. I think that lineup just allows you to keep guys fresh, but also really allows you to throw different looks at the defense that they're probably not going to expect on the offensive side, and definitely not going to expect on the defensive side because of how much length and athleticism the Red Raiders will have in the front court. Again, spread is not out yet at the time of this recording. It's about, 12 in the afternoon on Monday. So about, what is that? Quick math didn't go to Texas Tech for math. 30 hours away from tip-off. I would suspect this is pretty close to a coin flip, maybe Texas Tech favored by a point. But overall, I think Texas Tech wins this game. I think they're more talented than Cincinnati, but don't get it twisted. This is going to be an absolute dogfight up in Ohio, and hopefully Texas Tech can come back to the 806 5-2 with the chance to potentially move to 6-2 and then 7-2 ahead of a very, very tumultuous early February for the Texas Tech Red Raider men's basketball program on their schedule. But again, let me know down in the comments below your score prediction for Texas Tech and Cincinnati. Big one for the Red Raiders. 5-2 makes you feel a lot better than 4-3 in conference play, and probably sets you up for a lot more success, as I mentioned. And if you haven't already, be sure to like the video and hit that subscribe button and turn on that notification bell for more Texas Tech game breakdowns. We're going to be doing it all the time here, people. So why not join the largest group of Texas Tech fans right here on the Back to 12 podcast channel? All right. I want to look at the comments here in a second, but I'm going to get a quick drink of water. Again, very appreciative of y'all spending some of y'all's Monday afternoon. I'm hoping y'all are having a great day off, or, watching at work. Either way, I mean, good for you guys for being here. Good for you guys. We appreciate you here. Let's see. Should I go Metro? Nah, we'll answer questions. Here we go. Grant Williams. Hopefully, again, not the Grant Williams on the Charlotte Hornets. And if it is, hope your knee's feeling better. What's the news on Amari Evans, the wide receiver from Penn State? Yeah, he was on campus this past weekend for Texas Tech. Texas Tech actually hosted 40-plus recruits for Junior Day. They were there at the Arizona game. Texas Tech football hosted them. So that was a pretty cool environment for them to see. But it sounds like Amari Evans and Texas Tech are in a really good spot. Nothing official yet. Things can change, but I know the Red Raiders really like him, and I think that there's a really good chance that he returns back home. The interesting part is Terrence Carter Jr., the tight end that Texas Tech landed in the transfer portal from Louisiana, the Raging Cajuns. Him and Amari Evans are good friends, and if you go and look at Terrence Carter Jr.'s Twitter, you would see him, toying around with the fan base is probably the best way to say it a little bit on it. So, yeah, that's the guy that Texas Tech fans are looking at. And he's going to have to make a decision here pretty quickly if he wants to get into school, with school already starting at Texas Tech this past week, if he wants to enroll in classes and go from there. So I would expect, Amari Evans to make a decision here in the next – I would be shocked if it goes the whole week. But Texas Tech is in a pretty good spot with him. I'm not saying it's 100% done deal. He's a Red Raider, but Texas Tech is 1,000% firmly in the mix still and wants him to be a Texas Tech Red Raider. All right. Mitchell says, team has shown a lot of growth since dropping to A&M, liking what I see. Yeah. And the thing is maybe I'm in the minority. We're playing the if game again here on the channel, and you know where that gets us. Texas Tech, I think, beats A&M if they have JT Toppin. Am I out of pocket for saying that? I really don't think I'm out of pocket for saying that. I think they do. Again, we're playing the if game here. I don't think that loss hurt you. Would have been better if it was a win. It's just kind of like Iowa State, where that Iowa State game doesn't hurt you that you lost. It obviously would have been better if you won, but it didn't hurt you. In fact, it probably helped you a little bit, but because you just played the game so damn close. But yeah, overall, I mean, they're headed in the right direction. Absolutely. They're getting healthier and they're figuring this out. That's one of the things that I think a lot of people struggle with in modern college basketball. And I think Texas Tech football may have some growing pains with it too. It takes time for these guys to gel in games. Like, practice can only do so much for you, right? Like, you have to go through live game reps, right, with these guys. And in the portal, it feels like there's just so many different moving pieces that it takes a little bit longer now. And in basketball, you get obviously more opportunities than football, but football, good for Texas Tech in the sense that they play nobody really in their non-con schedule outside of Oregon State, which is fine by me. Some people will be upset by that. I'm not. I want them to have as easy of a road just to get live in-game reps for all those portal additions, all the young guys that are going to be having new roles, Baron Morton feeling out his shoulder when he's back and healthy, hopefully, like all that. Like that's what I want. So they're in a good spot. But on the Texas Tech basketball front, you think about it, JT missed a lot of that non-con in-game rep practice. And just, I mean, not even just practice, but the reps too, right? Like there's part of that. So you're seeing how this team could potentially look down the road, and they're starting to look good. Now, a lot more season to go, right? You're only about a fourth of the way through it. But you're a really good basketball team. There's no doubting that. Will we move Walton to the sixth man and start our freshman at guard? Probably not. No. I think they really like Christian Anderson off the bench, almost like in the Chance McMillan role from last year. I think they really like him. There's a lot less pressure on him. There's the ability for him to come in and just be that instant microwave type scorer. I think if you see Walton move out of the starting lineup, I think it would be for Kevin Overton. I think that's what would most likely happen. Daniel, Cincy very bad, should beat them by more than 8 to 10. Maybe. I don't think that they're very bad. I just don't think they lived up to the preseason expectations. I think Cincy, and to be fair, I was higher on Cincy than probably some other people. I thought they would probably finish top 6 in the Big 12, probably at like 6th right behind Tech. So wrong on that front probably. But I think Cincy is a good team. They're hungry right now. They know that they have to get back on track. And this Texas Tech game that they have on their schedule is an opportunity for them to get a very meaningful win. I mean, Texas Tech is top 15 in the net rankings right now. That would be a huge win for Cincinnati and allow them to get back on track. They're going to come out hungry, and they're going to probably play their best game of the season. Texas Tech better be ready for it. If Tech does get Amari, do you think he will rank? Where do you think he will rank in our Tech wide receiver group? At worst, wide receiver 4. Yeah, I think Caleb's your wide receiver 1. And then I think in any order, I'd be okay with you putting Coy, Amari, and then Reggie Virgil. Any order. Doesn't really matter to me, but you have 4 wide receivers that you feel really damn good about. There's no doubting that. Daniel, the game that's going to hurt is St. Joe's. Yeah, it's going to hurt you for sure. It's not going to be a great aspect of your resume, but it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, if you handle business in the Big 12, it'll be like, oh, they had an off night. Okay, cool. The committee will maybe dink them like 0.2%. Nothing crazy. Like that St. Joe's loss sucks. Don't get me wrong, but if you handle business in the Big 12 and you win, let's say Texas Tech wins 12 or 13 games in the Big 12, that St. Joe's loss is going to just be a blip on the radar, and they're going to be like, okay, it was a bad night on a neutral site early on in the season. Like, yeah, it's not going to help them, but it's not going to be crazy detrimental either if Texas Tech. And by the way, Texas Tech is on pace to win about 12, 13 games in the Big 12. So that St. Joe's loss, again, not great, but it's also not going to be hugely detrimental. It's not going to be like if Texas Tech wins, let's just play, and say they win 12 games in the Big 12, right? They go 12-8 in conference, which would be pretty damn good with how good this conference is. Texas Tech should probably be a 5 seed, 6 seed. That St. Joe's loss is not going to drop them down to a 7 spot. That's not how it's going to be. If anything, it'll drop them down from being like the second highest 5th seed to the third highest 5th seed. That's what would happen. I would assume, because if anything has shown us in terms of recent history about neutral site games, the committee does take them seriously, but they don't hold as much weight long term, especially if they're in the preseason, unless they're really good, right? It's almost like the committee treats some of these non-con games that maybe should be viewed as like a black eye, unless at least if it's one, right? Like if you lose multiple St. Joe's types game, if you're Texas Tech, which they didn't, okay, that's a different story. But sometimes they don't give you a pass, but they almost view it like how games are in the conference tournament, where if you lose, you're the high seed and you lose in the first game that you play in the Big 12 tournament, right? It doesn't hurt you. Only winning those games helps you, kind of deal, if that makes sense. But yeah, interesting stuff for sure. Do you think Tech will be ranked this week? Didn't they come out with the AP poll's already out, right? Am I crazy? I don't think they were ranked. Maybe I'm wrong. I feel like I would have saw that on Twitter. They would have posted that, I'm pretty sure. Let's see. Yeah, Texas Tech is 26th. Good call out, diehard Texas Tech fan. Yeah, they're 26th. They're about 21 points away from Louisville at 25. So you're basically a top 25 team. It is what it is. That number doesn't really matter. But these numbers do as a transition. That was a hell of a transition in the business is what we call that. Let's go to it. Here we go. Kim Pom, Texas Tech, all the way up at 12th now after that dominant Arizona win. They have a top 10 offense in the country, according to Ken Palm's metrics. And then you see Texas Tech. Before the Arizona game, they were ranked as the 58th best defense in the country. They are now top 35. And for those that don't know, teams that have a chance to win the national championship historically rank top 20 or top 30 in both offense and defense. Texas Tech on the verge of meeting that. Again, not saying they're going to, but that's a factor to look at when you're making your bracket later on, and realistic chances for Texas Tech to potentially do that. So those are numbers to know. Now, the next one we're going to look at is the net. For those that don't know, the net is actually the metric that, well, the committee uses quite a bit, as I get Texas Tech on your screen right there. And they are 15th, actually, funny enough, behind Arizona, but that makes sense. Arizona has had way more tougher games. As you can see there, 3 and 6 in quad one opportunity. So 9 quad one games so far for the Wildcats, while Texas Tech has 5. The Red Raiders are top 15 in the country, according to the net. This is something that the committee takes very, very seriously. So right now, as it stands right now, if they went off of just strictly this, which they can move things around, and things will obviously change with the multitude of games left, right? Texas Tech would be a 4 seed, and they would be the 3rd best 4 seed. There you go. So nothing too crazy. All right. Then we move on and we go to T ranks. This is Bart Torvik. Good stuff by Bart Torvik. He's just kind of like Ken Pom and just has it more in terms of a different formula, but very similar results overall. You can see the Big 12 is absolutely loaded up there. You've got Houston, Iowa State, Arizona, Kansas, and Texas Tech all in the top 13. So 5 of the top 13 teams in the country are in the Big 12. Texas Tech is 13th right there. They have the 9th best offense, according to his metrics, and a top 40 defense right there at 38. Good stuff by Texas Tech overall. And then if you go all the way over, you see a lot more green there in terms of efficiency. Texas Tech is very efficient and one of the better rebounding teams in the country, according to his metrics, actually leading or being a top 16 rebounding team in the country, and then a top 12 shooting team in the country, shooting at 38.9%. Now, another aspect to look at as we go through one more metric here is BPI. It's at ESPN. Whatever your feelings are at ESPN, leave them to the side. It doesn't really matter right now. The committee actually does look at BPI, even though net is probably the one that they look at most. And then, supplement, have opinions looking at Ken Pom, Bart Torvik, all that kind of stuff. The Red Raiders, again, rank in the top 15, just behind Baylor. I don't know how Baylor's ahead of them, but it is what it is. And you can see it right there. They have a 3% chance of winning their conference, and Texas Tech has the 46th best remaining strength of schedule in the country. That's good for Texas Tech. That's solid right there. Iowa State is up there as well. You have Houston, number 2 in the country. You have Iowa State right there at 5, Kansas at 7, Arizona at 8. Then you have Baylor at 14 and Texas Tech at 15. So 6 of the top 15 teams in the country are in the Big 12. One more aspect to look at, obviously very early on and, obviously going to change quite a bit. Big 12 current standings right there. You are currently tied for 4th alongside West Virginia and then Kansas as well, with the Wildcats of Arizona and the Cyclones of Iowa State tied for 2nd with the Cougars of Houston, the only remaining unbeaten team in the Big 12 in terms of conference play. They are on a 10-game win streak. I believe that is the longest in the country as it stands right now. Now, why am I showing you all of this? Well, it's because there were multiple people that said the sky was falling after Texas Tech lost to UCF. Crazy take. There was also people saying that Texas Tech wasn't a good basketball team after they lost by 1 at 1 point in overtime to Iowa State. Stop it. This Texas Tech team is really good. If your expectations are national championship and bust, okay, you're going to be disappointed. But if you go in with realistic expectations of this team has a real chance to make the second weekend, and as we talked about earlier, if you make the second weekend, you have a chance if a bounce here or a bounce there goes your way to be in the Elite Eight, and then you're 1 game away from the Final Four, that's where you should be. This is a top 25 roster in the country easily, in my estimation. The only thing Texas Tech needs to worry about now is getting those live in-game reps, right, and staying healthy. But that's every team in the country, right? You like where Texas Tech is at because you know they have talent. You know they can shoot the hell out of it. And maybe most importantly, you know each and every night, outside of maybe, and I mean maybe, 3 or 4 guys in the Big 12, right, you have the better coach. It is what it is. Grant McCasland is already that high up in the Big 12, in my opinion. Bill Self's up there. TJO is up there. You've got a couple of other guys, but Grant McCasland is one of the best coaches in the Big 12, and that is something that not a lot of people are talking about in terms of the advantage for Texas Tech. Texas Tech is really good, people. And if you think otherwise, I don't know what team you're watching. Yes, I understand. I was frustrated by the St. Joe's loss. I was upset about the Texas A&M game. I was there in person, but you didn't have JT Toppin. I was upset that they lost to UCF, but that UCF team looks a whole lot better than I think a lot of people give them credit for. They should have beat Houston on Saturday. And then also, you think about this. You lose to Iowa State, a team that will likely be a 1 seed or at worst a 2 seed in the NCAA tournament, okay? So only really one of your losses this year is a bad loss. Everybody else that you have played is either on the bubble or firmly in the NCAA tournament. In the A&M and the Iowa State case, they're probably going to be a 4 seed or higher. You're a good basketball team. You're going to need to continue. You're obviously going to need to continue to, get better on the floor, both ends of it, and then also win, right? Winning is obviously the most important aspect of all this, but Texas Tech is a really damn good basketball team, and they will continue to prove that as we go on. All right, I'm going to wrap it up there. Appreciate y'all tuning in for about 40 minutes here on the channel. Be sure to like the video, hit that subscribe button. Tell your friends about it. Let's get as many Red Raiders in here as possible from here on out. We're going to have a ton of content for you guys leading up to March Madness. It's going to be absolutely awesome covering this Texas Tech team and interacting with each and every one of y'all. So again, if you haven't already, be sure to like the video, hit that subscribe button, and turn on that notification bell to join the largest group of Texas Tech fans on YouTube, 100% free. I'm not charging you anything. This is all for you guys. Just a safe, fun environment to talk Texas Tech hoops and men's and football all year long. So if you want to be a part of that, 100% free. All you got to do is like the video, hit that subscribe button, and turn on that notification bell to join the Back to 12 squad today. Catch y'all next time, guys.